You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again for the bi-weekly options extravaganza known as the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever scintillating, at least we tend to think so, Options Insider Radio Network. Remember, many different flavors of said network available for your perusal. Of course, you can get it on demand on pretty much any platform under the sun. There's more, literally, again, today, there's more. It's hard to believe. There are more podcast platforms and communities and everything else, but there are, and they're all adding us lickety-split out there. So yeah, it's available on just about anything you could think of that will have some sort of on-demand audio on it, including a lot of you, like in the old YouTubes these days. We don't judge. However you want to get it, have at it. Audible, you can get it on Audible. I had fun telling my smart speaker the other day to play the Option Block and stuff. It's just fun. And of course, you can always get it if you want to kick it up a notch. Join us in the live. Have all the other fun that we do here, including pro Q&As, and coming up later tomorrow, actually, we've got options oddities there as well. And of course, the fun, if you follow us on social media, listeners, you can see the awesome photo that we tweeted out of just all the cool stuff we've been pulling out of our vaults for you folks in the pro that are going to win in those pro trading crates. Those crates are stuffed to the gills. It's going to cost me a ton to ship these things, but you know what? It's fun. We like doing it. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Let's see who's joining us on the program today to help us learn more. First, let's go out to the quiet and tranquil hinterlands of Chicago, where there's no crypto allowed because it's illegal. Unless, of course, it's Shiba Inu, which he loves. We are, of course, referring to St. Charles and none other than Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program, sir.
Always happy to be here, and I don't know if it's illegal to trade crypto in St. Charles, but it's probably not as common as some people would think.
They're too busy eating delicious Skippies, gyros, and lemonade, which I can vouch for. They are both delicious. And, of course, heading out to the land of Maine, I don't think they have crypto or gyros or lemonade there. It's all an entirely lobster-based economy, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the program. Is crypto also banned in your neck of the woods, sir?
That is kind of funny. Crypto is not banned in this neck of the woods. However, there is a live clam trade going on.
I think a lobster NFT is in your near future, sir, as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
That's an area where I think the crypto market still has a lot of work to do. The overlap of crustaceans and shellfish with crypto. I think there's a lot to be mined there. Hasn't really been explored yet. But you know what markets are exploring today? They're exploring all kinds of new directions out there today. Coming into showtime, we're seeing a bit of a mixed bag out there on the street. Again, kind of depends where you hang your hat, what kind of day you're seeing out there. We're seeing the Dow being the laggard today, off nearly 0.4% when we kicked off the show. S&P up nearly 0.1%. And NASDAQ in the other direction up nearly 0.75%, a little bit, about 0.2% out there today. So again, a very different day, kind of depending where you're hanging out. You know, it isn't different though. It's almost like we're still on Monday's show here. When we racked up all the vol numbers for today's show, it was like literally nothing had happened, listeners. They are all almost exactly unched from where we were on Monday's show. Yeah, when we kicked off the show, VIX was at a 17.5. Guess where it was on Monday's show? Yep, 17.5. VVIX 114. That's up a whopping 2 from where it was on Monday's show. VXX 21. Guess where it was on Monday's show? If you said 21, I think you're catching on. UVXY 16. Take a whopping guess where it was on Monday's show. Yep, 16. The only thing I moved really was VolQ. That's up about a point to 19.25. So from a vol perspective, it's like we've just been sitting on our hands since Monday's show. A whole lot of nothing has happened out there. But let's go around the horn. Let's see if they've got a whole lot of nothing on their hands or perhaps more to unpack. Let's go back the opposite of the way we came. Let's start in the land where they're on the cutting edge of crustacean-based crypto known as Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what's light up your tape? And what do you think about these, these seafood-oriented cryptos, huh? It's opportunity there.
I have to admit, if you think about it, pretty much if it's crypto, it sells at this point, right? So if it's crypto, it sells.
Let's just have a new coin. Let's just call it the Rock Lobster. Bam. If a Shiba Inu can be a thing,
I'm going to launch my own crypto coin.
If a Doge can be a thing, why can't a Rock Lobster be a unit of digital currency, sir?
I think it's perfectly reasonable to do that, and I've just been looking at. I have dabbled in the coin trade a little bit this year, so I'm not doing anything super brave in it though. I'm like selling put spreads at the 250 level, so not anything super. But
diving into the fire.
I feel like that's about as much as I will dip my toe into the crypto space. But I don't know. It feels like I don't know. It's like crypto's like they just keep making more of it. Yet it keeps going up. So I can only assume that a lot of this is let's just call it. There's a lot of extra money floating around over the last year and a half. I'm going to guess $5 trillion extra. And that has funded a lot of this. So at some point, I assume that somebody's going to turn the tap off. We'll see. But crypto is, like I said, you have crazy inflation. The dollar's eroding in value, so people are looking for something else. And I don't think I can turn my phone on and look at a woodworking video without getting an ad for Coinbase. So, I guess it's here to stay, at least for right now.
Well, as we've discussed before, that's the hot demographic. People living on the shores of Maine who like woodworking, clearly deeply into crypto, sir.
Apparently, yes.
Maybe they've done some analysis, and people who have their own compounds on the hinterlands of society, there probably is some overlap with them in liking crypto. I probably will agree to that. So maybe there is more to it than we first think. But that said, sir, aside from all things crypto and your forthcoming Rock Lobster digital asset, what else is lighting up your tape, sir?
Lithium. Lithium is every lithium stock I look at is the Nigerian brothers, I guess, are pumping QS, which is a stock, unfortunately, closed right before it went up. I don't know. I was really happy with what happened, and then it proceeded to go up another $10 after I closed it. So, lithium today. They like gold today. They like commodities today. So it is a very green day for those products.
Yeah, they seem to really want to not let me get my DNN stock. I was pretty aggressive, I thought, on selling those $2 puts, and they just keep saying, nope, north of $2 for you, sir. So we obviously got some time till expiration in November. And I got a pretty penny for those puts, so I'm not mad if I have to sell that $2 strike again next month. Oh, well. But yeah, it's just funny. It's right at 203 right now. It keeps mocking. It's like, nope, no stock for you. You just get to keep all that juice you sold. So I guess there are worse things. First world problems in the lithium trade. Are you guys out there slinging any lithium? There's a bunch of choices out there these days. I told you before, I like playing in and around DNN. It's a fun one. There are a lot of fun ones. Let us know what your favorite flavor of lithium is these days. Mr. Uncle Mike, A, do you have a favorite flavor of lithium out there? And B, aside from that, what else is lighting up your tape, sir?
I do not have a favorite flavor of lithium. So aside from that, what's lighting up my tape? We definitely have a lot of talk in the crypto world, and I just want to restate my opinion. I don't think it's here to stay. I think it's something that in 5 years from now it will be a thing of the past, but that's just me. I think in the near term, hey, have at it. Buy your Shiba whatever and buy some whatever and have fun. Buy it, sell it, trade it, enjoy. But in terms of it being a long-term investment as an inflation hedge and that type of thing, I guess just I'm a little bit old school from the standpoint that tried and true beats bold and new anytime. That's just kind of how I feel on it. And I don't see it as a long-term investment. Now, with that, a couple things with which I am watching today. We are having a bit of a sell-off in the 10-year note over the course of the last couple days. I'm still out of the money with my short puts in that area for the time being. I will gladly own some of my underlying. It's not a problem to me. We're set up that way. But with what we have going on right now, it appears that the 4,700 mark was kind of a tough nut to crack for the S&P 500. And that we came down. It looked like inflation, the news on inflation was what was kind of the driver for what actually happened with it. So we have that. VIX is actually down, down over $1 on the day today. So that's definitely a fairly significant move in terms of volatility coming out of this market. And then the final thing that seems like everyone's talking about right now is Rivian. Rivian is up $22 on the day. So the exciting world of the IPOs, we have that going on, and Portillo's is hanging out in the mid-40s. So that's what's lighting up my tape today.
Yeah, I got to get myself some of that Portillo's. I keep meaning to and have not yet. I've eaten the food. I've not partaken of the stock quite yet, listeners. You're right. You mentioned the other hot name of the day there, Uncle Mike, which is Rivian, now public, ticker symbol Rivian, R-I-V-N. You probably heard the story by now. IPO'd, easy for me to say, IPO'd at $78, and it took off, obviously, trading. I think last I saw it was around 122. Let's see where it's hanging out right now. 123, almost 124, 123.99. Up about $23 just today. So a nice pop for them. Interestingly enough, obviously, we've all heard the stories about hot IPOs, and I certainly expect this one to probably follow on the heels of BITO, which, by the way, we had the ProShares folks on Crypto Rundown this week. Hopefully you guys checked it out. It was a very interesting conversation. They admitted they don't have an official pronunciation. I've been calling it BITO, but they don't have an official pronunciation, but they're leaning towards BITO. So I'm trying to, it makes sense, Bitcoin. It just some reason it got BITO in my brain and stuck there, but they're not offended either way. So if you have a strong feeling on the pronunciation, the folks at ProShares don't, but it's intriguing enough. Obviously that one was a big story for a number of reasons, including the fact that they had options almost literally the next day. It was very impressive. I expect to see maybe not quite that fast of a turnaround in Rivian, but something along those lines, certainly less than a week probably these days. But what was interesting, you didn't need to wait for the options if you wanted to get access to this. They had a nice little offering here. If you pre-ordered one of their trucks at Rivian, you don't have to prepay it. It was just $1,000 deposit. That $1,000 deposit then gave you access to their pre-IPO share buying plan. So effectively, you were allowed to buy up to a maximum of 175 shares at the IPO price. So if you did that, you could have spent nearly $14,000, about $13,650, and bought 175 shares of that. And That looked pretty good after the first day. That was worth about 17 grand. So you spent $1,000 to get access to the IPO early, and you made $4,000 on it. So it ended up working. You don't even need to keep the pre-order for the truck if you don't want. And the cool thing about it, you don't have any lockup period. You could sell that stock immediately. So if you wanted to go out right now and sell that, you could do so. So it's looking pretty good for those pre-order people out there. And now it's worth even more. It's worth $21,600 on that. So you're up $8,000 on this trade already. Not bad for a $1,000 deposit. Obviously, this is the early blush of the IPO. We've seen these things rally and fall. This valuation, it's more than anything else out there right now. It's getting kind of lofty. C'est la vie. Hopefully some of you got in on this early action and are looking pretty good right now. Let's see if the markets are looking pretty good as well. Coming into a few minutes ago, let's see what kind of paper we had on the tape. VIX given the fact that everything is literally unched from Monday, decent paper on the tape. VIX has about 183,000 contracts on the tape. Not exactly a record, but not nothing either. The ADV is 423 right now. SPY at about 1.9 million contracts. The ADV 4.7 million out there. The S 627,000 contracts. The ADV right around 1.5 million. The Qs 704,000. The ADV 1.55 million, so roughly halfway in the Qs, pretty close to it. And small caps looking pretty robust, if not quite on fire the way they have been of late. 350,000 contracts on the tape in IWM. The ADV 760 out there. So those small caps numbers have just exploded of late. That ADV is very high. It was shy of 600 grand not too long ago. So that's a big jump out there in good old small caps. So let's go on out to the list. The list, listeners, the list everyone's waiting for. The top 10 most actives, the hot stocks. This is where all the craziness is afoot out there in the markets right now. And it's another one of those days, listeners, cost you nearly 350,000 contracts to break into the top 10. That is a lot. Usually that'll get you to like number 5, maybe even number 4 in our list on some other quiet days. Not today. That's enough to break in. That gets you to Pfizer. Yeah, I haven't seen this one on the top 10 in a while. Our old friend Context Logic, a.k.a. Wish, they're at number 9, 372,000 contracts out there. So interesting stuff afoot. They've gotten some meme names back in the action. Number 8, good old Freeport McMoran over there. FCX, also haven't seen them in the top 10 in quite a while. 375,000 contracts of them at number 8. They're up about $3.50 or about 9.33% today, trading around $41 right now. Number 7, AMD. You don't need me to explain to you why AMD is lighting it up on any given day. Today, they're at number 7, 422,000 contracts. Number 6, our old friend who previously topped the list about a week ago, now at number 6. This is Lucid Group, the parent company of Lucid Motors and everything else out there. A ticker symbol Lucid, of course, LCID, at 45 and change right now. And good for 429,000 contracts. It seems like everything with wheels is lighting it up out there today, including Ford. Ford number 5, 453,000 contracts, was north of the 20 handle not too long ago, listeners. You got to go back, I think, about a decade, if not longer, to see the last time Ford hit that level. And they touched it briefly and then gave a lot of it back up. Today, back about 19.5 and 453,000 contracts on the tape out there today. Number 4, it's SoFi, also back in the top 10, doing some pretty decent paper today. 460,000 contracts. Number 3, yes, number 3. It's Apple, man. Apple is just getting kicked to the curb left and right these days. 548,000 that's nothing for Apple. That's a good afternoon. That's a good hour worth of trading for Apple. So that's nothing. Still number 3 though out there. Number 2, ye old Diz. This stock has perplexed me ever since the pandemic. It's been a crazy one. They were trading shy of $100 and all this madness broke out, and then they took off to the races, despite the fact that pretty much every one of their business units, except for streaming, was down horrifically. And yet we had, this massive rally out there, basically on the back of The Mandalorian and streaming out there. The parks were closed. ESPN was hurting. They had no Marvel movies or blockbuster movies for the better part of a year. So all the areas they're usually firing on all cylinders on were kind of hurting. And yet, for whatever reason, Mandalorian love, this thing took off to high heaven. So it's been rally ho. It got up to 203. That looks like around March of this year. So it is well off those highs and had given up some more of that today. Back down another 11 handles or 6.5%. Go figure. Streaming not quite as hot right now, but the parks kicking back in a little bit out there. The parks, I believe, were double what they had last year, which really wasn't much last year. This time last year, Disneyland was still closed. So you expect an uptick there, but apparently that wasn't enough to calm the street. They're saying maybe we've overdone this a little bit. They're off 11.33% or 6.5%. She's 11.33 dollars, 6.5% today, a little bit shy of 163 out there right now. So well off their 52-week low of 134 today. And then number one, it's day that ends in Y, it's Tesla. All this on again, off again. Will he shell his shares? Will he not? Turns out he had the plan to do so all along. The whole Twitter thing was kind of just a way to gin up some action, some activity. He's good at that, if nothing else, out there. And yeah, that worked. People got excited about that. They thought they told him to sell his shares. Turns out he had the plan in place. Go figure. He had a tax bill he had to cover. But still, intriguing stuff nonetheless. Speaking of intriguing stuff, Tesla, by the way, number one, 905,000. So actually kind of light for our number one, even though the rest of the list is blowing the doors off. All right, let's keep on rolling. Let's see what's going on from an earnings season. A lot of updates coming on the earnings analytics fronts. Our mad wizards over there at ORATS have been diligent behind the scenes, cooking up some cool new stuff for you folks. Now, let's get to it. First off, this week, some hot names popping off. Cody, PayPal, AMC, and Roblox on Monday. Tuesday, Palantir and NEO. I haven't had a chance to check out Palantir. I know their last earnings really kind of sent them into a new stratosphere in terms of volume. Let's see how they're doing. They're up to about 45.71. I guess the market kind of liked what they saw after selling off a bit. So not a huge move compared to previous announcements for Palantir, but still up. NEO on Tuesday, Coinbase, Mr. Rock Lobster's favorite, selling $100 out of the money put spreads. Wynn Resorts, DoorDash, and Krispy Kreme on Tuesday. Wednesday, the good old Diz, Beyond Meat, Wendy's, and Bumble. And today we have Yeti and Sundial after the bell, and AstraZeneca tomorrow. Let's see. And I mentioned some cool new stuff. Let's get to it here. First, we have move results reports. Again, you can find all this for yourself completely for free. How much do we like you people? Again, I can't stress enough. This used to be the sole domain of prop shops and, the high-end houses who would create this kind of proprietary research for their clients in terms of how names have compared based on previous straddle. And it was really very basic stuff. It was, here's the straddle. Here's how much they moved. That's it. The stuff the ORATS guys are doing, it goes way beyond all of that. And they've turned it up to 11 now again. So a lot of cool stuff, and it's all freaking free. You can't beat the price. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. That will begin your journey to the dark side of earnings. Let's look here really quickly. Beyond Meat, they were yesterday after the bell. They were at 94.5 when they went into their announcement. Ooh, this is interesting. They were pricing in 9%. And get this, listeners, they delivered 16% out there. They sold off quite a bit. They were trading 79 1/3 as of this report. They're up a little bit now, up to 80.75, 80.84 or so. So they're up a bit, but still well off their not quite 2x their straddle. We're pretty close. But I mentioned Diz taking a bit of a beating. They were at 174.5. They were pricing in 4.5%. They delivered 7.7% out there to the dark side. Let's see how that's holding up now. They're off about 6.5% now. So still outperforming their straddle. Good old Bumble for all the ladies out there looking for love. Bumble. Let's see. They were on the 10th after the bell. 47.75 is where they were trading. They were pricing in about 11%. In the past, they were pricing in 11%. Now they moved 17%. They're off nearly 20% now. Wow. Bumble getting shellacked. Wow. So apparently the market for ladies' love is a little bit lighter than it was a couple of days ago. Interesting. That one, of course, one of the other hot IPOs of the year out there. But again, this one cracked me up because it seemed like it's such a no-brainer that someone would have done this by now. But apparently Bumble beat everyone else to the punch. So good on them. Let's keep on rolling out here. Some of the other move results. There's a bunch of them here, listeners. You can check them out for yourselves. TheOptionInsider.com. Also, check out the earnings season reports. And I want to touch on something new really quickly. Let's see. The earnings season report so far. Week 1, 108%. So firmly in the green there. Week 2, not quite so in the green, 57%. So pretty dark red there. Week 3, 91%. They kind of color it white here because it's not really green, not really red, but it's not bad. And then week 4, 120%. Look at this, listener. These are levels we have not seen since the pandemic. Week 5 so far, 104%. So get this, listen to this. the season right now, averaging out 102%. Yes, it is still an outperforming season. We have not seen that since the start of the pandemic. So we were thinking this might be the moment. This might be the season where the worm turns, at least as of this minute. Obviously, everything could change. But as of this minute, that has turned out to be the case. That is pretty exciting. Speaking of exciting, if you go to our earnings move results, and earnings season reports, listeners, you will see something new, courtesy of Matt and his team over there, always cranking out cool new stuff. And I saw this and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. This is, in addition to all the stuff they always give you for free, the earnings movie, all the season, all that stuff, they've added a new report called the Earnings Trades Report. And that's exactly what it sounds like. They're breaking down some basic trading strategies and how they performed during this earnings season. They have a couple of different strategies they're analyzing. Buying straddles, selling straddles, pretty straightforward. You got to have those in there, right? And then also buying and selling calendars. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that one in there. And they have some breakdowns about how this is performing so far here. And let's see here. Yeah, so this is really interesting stuff. Also, they have some exited trades they have today in Fossil and a few other names out there. They made some money in Fossil on their straddle. And they also break it down by week. Looks like week 1 and week 3, good weeks to buy straddles. They all have outperformed by about 1.2 and about 1.2% each there. So good weeks to buy straddles. Also, let's see, where's a good week to sell them? Looks like week 2, they've outperformed by about 2% on selling straddles as well. Again, we could spend hours diving into this stuff, listeners. Buying calendars, it looks like week 2 is probably your best. And then week 6, you outperforming by nearly 2%. So that's not bad out there overall. Again, these aren't recommendations. They're more just kind of to try out and give you a sampling of basic earnings related strategies and how they have performed. I need to look at this more myself. Kind of just came in right before showtime, but it is really interesting stuff. Gives you the average profit they have buying and selling the straddles and the calendars, the number of trades they actually did. So in week 1, it was 10. Week 2 was 23. So I'll have to ask them how they're choosing which ones to do. But still, it is interesting stuff here. So all of you who've been asking for even more data and analytics, I think we have another listener request about that coming a little bit later. All of you have been asking for that stuff. They hear you over there, and they're cranking away on all kinds of new stuff. So if you haven't checked out our stuff in a while, head on over to the website, click on the the options, news, and articles tab, go to the earnings reports, and then scroll down to this earnings trades report, hot off the presses for today. Just came in before showtime, November 11th. And check it out for yourself. It's pretty cool stuff. I'm curious to hear what you think about these different strategies. Maybe you have a different strategy they should try out. Who knows? All kinds of cool stuff. But this is pretty cool. And again, it's free. So you can't beat the price as we keep on rolling right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild. Let's see if our trades can keep up. We were just talking about the madness that is Disney selling off today. Well, our Eye of Sauron has fixed its gaze there first today. We're going out. Like I said, Disney's had quite the run over the course of the past year. In the past year, its low is 134.10. Its high is, that was back pretty much a year ago. And the high was 203. That was in March of last year, right around March 8th or so. And in between it has kind of gently drifted down until, of course, the last few sessions when it took a more aggressive turn to the dark side. Still up on the year, still up about 18%, about 25 points on the year. Of course, if you extend that frame of reference a little bit farther, maybe to, let's say, the beginning of the pandemic, Disney sold off below $100, got down to about 85, 86. And a lot of people were wrestling with it then and right around 100 level saying, this thing seems like it's a rough buy because everything they do is not working right now. And yet it turned out to be a pretty good time to be in Disney, all things considered. I'm looking here at the chart. It went October 30th, it went from 121 to December 11th. So you're talking about a month and a half. It went to 175 just in that month and a half. So that last end of last year is actually where the big run up was. Everyone thinks the beginning of this year, meme stuff, that's where everything took off. But Disney had its big pop actually in November of last year into early December. That's interesting. And then, of course, it topped out in March, like I said. So intriguing stuff now coming back down the other side of that. And looks like our eye of Sauron, Mr. Rock Lobster, picking up a pretty sizable line in the sand. Someone thinks Disney will go this far and no farther. In this case, 14,000 of the Jan 145 puts going up on the bid. They weren't playing around. They said, what's your bid? We'll take it for 14,000 of these Jan 145 puts for 226. Kind of an odd bid, but that's what they got these off for. It was 226 at 2.5, a weird market. But c'est la vie. If you're wondering, us about a 28 vol, so not nothing, not biotech vol either, but not bad for Disney. The stock was actually lower when they sold these. The stock was 159.5. It has rebounded to about 163 right now. So he sold these, and these were a lot lower. So I got a feeling, Mr. Rock Lobster, this is going to pass your first smell test, which is they look better now than when you put the trade on. The next earnings are in February, so it's not an earnings play, and obviously we're immediately post-earnings here. But Mr. Rock Lobster, what say you? What are your thoughts on this line in the sand in Disney? Do you like it? You think it's perhaps a bit of a bridge too far? What do you think?
I think this is going to pay for a lot of Ferraris, this trade. I think multiple Ferraris.
Oh, multiple Ferraris.
Yeah. You
like this one, huh? This is in the Rock Lobster canon of good trades?
1.4 million, right? Times 2. So what is this? $3.5 million, something like that. There's some good primo on this one. Like $3.5 million.
Almost 3.2.
So
almost 3.2.
They're definitely not messing around. It does feel line in the sandish, and I think they took the earnings report and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that. So I think this is if you're willing to own Disney, you're picking up about 1.5% to January, which is a little light in the yield department for me, all in. But considering how far out of the money it is, and it's Disney. And the trade is already up 75 cents. Not too bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. You can buy a Ferrari and also a house with this one, Mr. Rock Lobster.
Yeah.
So Rock Lobster likes these. I will put that in the notes that Rock Lobster is a fan. Are you a fan, listeners? You like these puts? You think 145 by January, this far and no farther? You like that level? What do you think? $2, $2.25. It's not nothing. So even if you do your proverbial 10 lot, which granted is a lot in a Disney name like that, you're still getting some decent premium out there. We'll keep an eye on these, come back to these. Disney, an interesting beast out there over the course of the past year, and remains an interesting beast as we keep on rolling. Let's go on out. I don't think this is one we talked about on the Odd Block before. This is Open Door Technology, ticker symbol, appropriately enough, Open, OPEN. This is an online residential real estate company. So it sounds like a Zillow and other things. Looks like you can make repairs on properties through it and things like that too. By the way, Zillow, how crazy is all that with that? Their AI home buying. Turns out AI, not so good at pricing real estate. Conversation for another day. Let's get on out to Open Door here. Having a nice day today, trading about 22.5, up about $3 or 15.25%. Let's see. This thing a year ago was trading $18. So it was until today, it was kind of almost a bit of a wasted year out there. Yeah, it was because it was trading $18 a year ago. It was trading 19.5 just yesterday. So almost a wasted year, but we'll break it down really quickly. It had some nice moves in between there, obviously. A year ago, $18 exactly. December 21st, it rallied to 31.25. Sold off again to 22 on December 31st. And then the new year kicked off. Meme madness. This one took off as well. February 11th got up to 35.88. Actually, that day, intraday hit their 52-week high of 39.25. So they kissed $40. Didn't quite get there. And then they kind of gave it up hard. On March 8th, sold down to $20. So pretty much got cut in half. And then as all the meme kids like to do, they fought back on March 15th. They got up to about $29. And then they kind of gave up the ghost by, let's see, April 20th. They were trading 16.5. They got down to pretty close to the 52-week low. They got down to $14 on May 13th. And they kind of hung out in their level. Their actual 52-week low, looks like it came a little bit later, was $13.44. And they were bouncing around that level to not that long ago. August 19th, they were still trading $14.5. Then they started rallying again. They got up to, let's see, November 1st, they were trading almost $25, $24.75. And then they got clipped again by, like I said, November 10th. Just yesterday, they're down to 19.5. So they went from $24.75 to 19.5 in the span of about 9 days. And then at this last session and today, they're back up again to 22.5. So this thing has been extremely volatile of late out there. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. It's like a bit of a weird one, Mr. Rock Lobster. It's like a bit of a three-way. All legs, 10,000 each. You're talking 30,000. Somebody wasn't playing around when it came to size. Looks like maybe a bit of a short call roll and also maybe legging into a long vertical at the same time. The weird thing is they did it all separately, which is kind of weird. Well, they did two legs together, then one leg, about 12 minutes later, which is kind of weird. Let's see here. Let's see. Those went up late, though, so maybe it was just it could be bad reporting as well. But in particular, looks like they bought back the NOV 27s expiring tomorrow 10,000 times for 23 cents, pretty much right off the offer there, and then sold the NOV 27. So they rolled the NOV 27s out to the end of at least this month, the monthly expiration. They sold those at 65 cents. So they did that spread for 42 cents, 10,000 times. They sold that because they sold the 65s. That was pretty much the bid out there when these went up. And then 12 minutes later, they came in and they bought the NOV 23 halves for $1.75, 10,000 times. That was actually through the offer. They were offered at $1.45. Again, this was a late print, though, so a lot of things are weird about it. And so it looks like they kind of legged into that. Well, first off, they bought back their short calls expiring tomorrow, and then they turned around and looks like they legged into the 23 half, 27 vertical, 10,000 times, and they paid $1.33 for that. If you're wondering, that's a 133 vol on those NOV 23 halves that they paid, listeners. So yeah, there's a lot of juice in this bad boy. So Mr. Rock Lobster closing out the 27s. I didn't see where they opened these, obviously, so maybe they made some decent change on these. And then rolling it out to what looks like a long vertical, this time the 23 half, 27 vertical, 10,000 times for $1.33. We're not talking an insignificant chunk of change here, sir. What do you think of this one?
I was trying to actually figure this paper out. So this is one that came up in the big money flow trade last week. So this was a good one for us, a really good one actually. Mostly because this stock gets sold off. Remember that you're saying the bad Zillow news, and then Zillow found somebody to buy their entire 2,000 home portfolio. Like, hey, does anybody want to buy 2,000 houses? Sure, I'll buy 2,000 houses.
Another AI bought it from their AI.
Yeah. I think Open Door got sold off on that news. And we're like, oh, they don't have quite the exposure that Zillow had, because I think they just sold everything in the same group. So I think, like with this trade, again, a hard one to figure out. Like the earnings just came out. I was having a hard time trying to dissect all of this action, because they're so like 3.5 strike is busy, the 7 strike is high open interest. The 30 strike has 15,000 contracts on it. So it's, they're closing the 27s, right? Maybe they open, it's really hard. Maybe they opened this morning for 23 cents and closed them for 26 cents after they had the $3 pop. And then, okay, now they are.
It looks like they may have opened the 27th on the 9th. A couple of days ago, they sold them for 70 cents. So in that case, they made almost 50 cents on those. So that makes that spread look a little bit better. Now you're talking 80 odd cents. Yeah. And
then maybe the 23 and a half, I can't, like the price is kind of all over the place, the print. So like, I looked at all this volume today. Actually, I think it's just bizarre volume. Like they had to have it all right now. That's kind of the feeling I got on it. And as of right now, the 3.5s feel a little lower. So again, just a little confusing. Overall, I thought it was kind of bullish, but taking the money kind of trades. The 3.5s though just looked like they had to pay up and have them. So I don't know about those. I think those are a little bit of a smack in the face at this point.
Yeah, that one, and I'm not liking that part of it. You're right. The print is weird. It went up late, and the price is all over the place. So, see, listeners, the depths we go to try to figure these things out for you listeners. But it seems like they made money selling those 27s. They want to keep that trade alive. But then also, for some reason, they added in this very beefy, some might say overpriced 133 vol leg to this trade that otherwise was looking pretty good. But yeah, this one, I'm not loving it. We'll keep an eye on this one as well. Let's go one more real quick line in the sand. This is the name we've talked about once or twice over the past few months. We're coming back to it again. This is Wendy's. Who knew Wendy's was going to be a meme name, but it kind of falls into that category now. Let's see really quickly. Wendy's right now, 21.5. Today, they are, let's see, what are they up to today? Up about, they're kind of unched on the day, 21.5. Not a lot going on today. A year ago, they were trading 23.21. So they're actually down a bit on the year. And let's see, about 7.5%. And then they kind of hung out in these low 20s range until June. It seemed like all the meme kids discovered them in June. They gapped up from 22 to 29.5. So it wasn't quite the meme explosion we've seen in other names. But it was very short-lived. The 29.5 on June 8th, again, our favorite day, listeners. And then sold right back off by June 21st, was trading $23 again. And then it sold off to its 52-week low. Actually, that came in March. That was $18.86. But outside of that, it's kind of been hovering in this low 20s range until the last few sessions when it sold off from $23 down to about 21.5. And once again, Mr. Rock Lobster, we go back to the old line in the sand. It seems like someone has decided Wendy's has sold off enough. And they came in, they sold 5,575 of the D20 puts for about 30 cents. That's about a 28 vol. That was a few cents off the bid. So I actually got a decent fill. They were 25-cent bid. The stock was a little bit lower and they went up. There was 21.21. The stock's about a quarter higher now. No earnings in this because they just had earnings. So Mr. Rock Lobster, this is one of our more straightforward line in the sands. Do you like this bad boy, the 20 strike for almost 30 cents in Wendy's, sir?
Wendy's, I would think Wendy's is probably one of the most grand line in the sand put stocks ever. Because, like, where does it go? I remember this thing trading on the Picos like 30 years ago, right? And that's what guys used to do, just sold puts it all the time. And again, like Dave on TV, the stock never really went anywhere. You know, there was always a bid for put. I think it probably put a lot of liquidity. What pit was it in? Oh my gosh, it was like it's like the Square D pit, I think, like way back. But yeah, I think Wendy's is a good line in the sand put because, you know, it's Wendy's. What's it going to do, right? So I think I can't dismiss a strategy that has worked so well for so long in this particular stock. So, you know, it's not really fancy yield. It's a little better than 1%. It's about 1% for the month, which is my minimum. But still, you know, it's a sleepy 1% for somebody who wants it. So I can't, you know. And Wendy's burgers are bad. You know, the stock, they didn't like the earnings. So I think this is an A1 strategy, Mr. Longo.
I remember that Dave guy came to speak when I was in college there, and someone asked the question, why are your burgers square? And you could tell he had this one teed up because he just said, at Wendy's, we don't cut corners. I always thought that was a great line. But yeah, Wendy's, you're right. A sleepy put right. But hey, everyone's got a few of those that they liked. I used to love Activision for that before all this madness that's unfolded in them now. They used to be a very sleepy name. They were very range bound. They were kind of one of the more reliable put rights in the business. Sounds like Wendy's could fall into that category. What are your reliable put rights? Hit us up. Let us know, listeners, as we keep on rolling. Speaking of you letting us know stuff, it is that time. It is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. I see all you out there in the chat debating PFOF in crypto. Yeah, it does seem, I was looking at some numbers the other day, it does seem like PFOF is starting to pop up in the crypto market. Go figure. You got flow, you're probably going to want to sell it, right? That's what people are discovering out there. And we're seeing some numbers that would indicate that maybe there is some payment for order flow going on out there. So just when you thought perhaps you were safe in the crypto markets, going out into these untested, untried, unbloodied waters there, nope, they're creeping in some PFOF there. So interesting stuff. It is, again, good stuff for the Crypto Rundown show to discuss there, but it is intriguing. Nothing is safe when it comes to payment out there these days. Speaking of safety, or perhaps lack thereof, nothing safe about our poll this week. We asked you, good timing, hot name this week, Tesla, bringing it back, one of our old standbys. You can tell we have a lot of new listeners to the network because they don't know the old standby for this one. But hey, I digress. I don't want to give too many hints. We asked you, very simple question. What do you think is the largest open position in Tesla right now? We said, no cheating. Use your gut. Don't pull up the OI on your brokerage platform. Use the old computer in your belly there to figure it out. And right now, the lead is the March 2023 2000s. By the way, I mentioned before, I'll mention again, these are all real sizable positions. We didn't make any of these up in Tesla. Just one of them is the most sizable, and that's what we're going for. So the March 2023 2000s, 48%. There's a reason why we put that one first. Kind of figured everyone was going to like that one. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, just putting it out there. Number two are the NOVE expiring tomorrow, the NOVE 12th, 1,000 puts. They have 28.5% of the vote. Then number three, the June 2022 $1 puts. What a crazy strike, 13.8%. And number four, the Jan 2024 1,400 puts, 9.8%. So you got looks like about 24 hours left to play in this one if you haven't already. A lot of you already have. Get out there, make your voices heard on the old Tesla front. Speaking of making your voices heard, let's go out to Trades with a Z. He or she says, hey guys, well, hello Trades. Thoughts on the new BITO? Oh, I keep saying B. I got BITO, the new BITO ETF. Are there options on it yet? Well, we talked about it a lot. A, B, yes, there are options. Fastest turnaround there is. I've heard the comments about drag. Do you think selling covered calls is a good strategy to defend against this and improve returns? He also wants to know if you guys have traded options, if there are some. Yes, the answer to the latter is I have. I wanted to kind of get out there a little bit and just test the waters to see what was going on because it was such a rapid listing. And also, as you mentioned, the upside is kind of bid. So it does make strategies you're talking about, like selling covered calls. And in my case, I went out there and got a pretty cheap butterfly. By the way, listeners, this is a good example of how capricious time can be in the world of options. I put on, I think it was a 40, 43, 47 fly. I got it for pretty much next to nothing because the upside was so big in BETA. I just did it for the weekly, so expiring last Friday. And of course, the stock goes out on Friday. I think it was like 39 something. So south of even the 40 strike. So the fly was completely worthless. Where does it pretty much close on Monday? 42.75. So just a day away from just max profit home run in that fly. That just shows you, again, how capricious the options world can be. It happens to the best of us, but I put it on for pretty much nothing. So it was more just a fun experiment to see, hey, are these things really as bid as it seems? And the answer was yes. I mean, we have seen that in Deribit and other platforms for a while that we've been breaking down on Crypto Rundown, but those aren't platforms or products you guys can really trade here in the U.S. This is the first time we have a real Bitcoin option you can put in your securities account. So it was worth playing around with. And of course, Bitcoin popped this week and, BITO is way back up there now. So yeah, it's an intriguing one. I think it's a fun one if you want to trade these things. But yeah, I think you're good to point out the drag. That is something that to keep in mind with you going to buy and hold the underlying. We had the ProShares guys on this week. They were trying to downsell the roll a little bit. They thought it was more like 0.5% a month. Well, I was saying numbers like around 1% a month. But again, it's still early days. We don't really know precisely yet. But expect some sort of drag. If you own it, you could do worse than selling covered calls against it to help offset that drag. And also because you're getting pretty lofty premiums for them. So yeah, I think that's a good one to a good strategy if you are going to own it. You can't go wrong with selling some upside against. Let's see if we can squeeze in some more people here. JPS Rondhawa. I'm sure I'm butchering that. He says, sir, I love our polite listeners. Sir, do you think the put-call ratio will affect a stock in the future? Thanks in advance. Very straightforward. I'm guessing English, probably not his first language, but well done nonetheless here. Put-call ratio. We talked about these before on the show. I don't think any of us here are really super big fans of the put-call ratio. But let's go around the horn. Let's get some opinions. First off, let's go out to Uncle Mike. I know you don't like crypto, Uncle Mike, but do you have any thoughts on the BIDO options? Have you traded or at least looked at them? Do you have any thoughts here for trades with a Z? And then B, let's clarify once again for our audience your stance on the old put-call ratio, sir.
I trade crypto all day long, and I love the put-call ratio. Oh, wait, I said that wrong. I'm sorry. No, I think BIDOs, it's definitely interesting to take a look at. And if you want to get into the crypto space, I think it's something that you could use, whether you want to be bullish or bearish. I mean, that's the beauty of options. You don't have to like something to trade it. You can dislike it and trade it just the same. So that's a nice thing about it. And I mean, like the liquidity on Bitcoin futures options is not the greatest, just from having looked at that. So yeah, BIDO is definitely something to take a look at if you want to have some exposure in that space. And in terms of the put-call ratio, I'm not a huge fan of it as an indicator, just because you don't know what the whole reason that we have the odd block is because the put-call ratio isn't the end-all be-all. You don't know why those calls were being traded. And I think it's just important to understand that just because a call is out there, it could be as a bearish call, part of a spread. It could be a bullish call. You don't know that. The same could be true for puts. So I don't typically look at it that closely. It's something that some people believe it's an indicator. I do not.
Mr. Rock Lobster, thoughts on BIDO call trading or any other options trading you've seen or done out there? And then also reiterate for our audience, in particular, Mr. JPS Randhawa, your thoughts on the put-call ratio, sir.
Okay, so the first is the BIDO thing. I haven't really looked at it yet. I assume it trades a little bit like VXX, except it goes up more. Yeah, because just for reference, the roll yield on, let's say, a VXX could be more like, so right now, if you compounded roll yield for VXX is 72%. Based on just like if you just took the daily decay and extrapolated out for the year, assuming that just the futures decay all the time, and sometimes for months that happens. So
this goes into predictably crappy.
That does work into the predictably crappy regime of VXX. So with 1% a month, again, I don't know compounded, but obviously that's a much different compounding number. If it's only 0.5%, it's still there. It's kind of like, so that I'll leave that there. I'm looking at that product. I just haven't gotten around to it just because of trying to keep up with all the other products that I have to manage currently. But again, just to give you a sample roll yield anyway. And if you flip it on its head, SVXY at the new 1.5 times, or the half times yield, that positive roll yield is 87%. So totally flipped around. VXX, SVXY, just if you want comparisons against the whatever you call it, the BiddyBot, whatever Bitcoin ETF thing. And then put call ratio, sometimes yes, sometimes no, I guess. Is it anything I look at every day? No. I do look at volume of stocks I'm interested every day to see what paper's doing. But I don't really look at the put call ratio per se, unless it's somebody that's on Twitter, and if I look at Twitter maybe for like 5 minutes a day, literally, and if it's something that happens to catch my eye, like, oh, wow, they're buying a lot of puts in that. Now, what I do when I'm looking at volume is I will just see, okay, wow, they're trading 1 million calls and 20,000 puts. So it gets my attention, but it depends on exactly what's going on with the flow ultimately that I see. So it's not something I look at all the time.
Yeah, BITO is to VXX. It's like a VXX that people actually want to buy, Mr. Rock Lobster. Nobody wants to touch VXX with a 10-foot pole. They all want to fade it. But BITO, they actually buy the damn thing, and they buy a lot of it, which is interesting. A little bit less roll yield, too, but you're right. There are some analogies to be drawn there. Let's see. Oh, you guys are all up in arms about crypto. We should have a crypto show today as well. Looks like what Mr. Unlimited say. You guys see that people that created the Squid Game coin. It was a quick pump and dump. I think we will see more coins based on what is relevant in the media. Yeah, unfortunately, I think we've reached that moment in crypto where all of the nasty things in the traditional financial markets have spilled over into there. We saw the Litecoin pump and dump not that long ago, about a month ago out there, where they pretended it was going to be taken at Walmart or whatever. Now we have, this was other pump and dumps that were, I think, Save the Kids coin was another one that was infamous in terms of being just completely fraudulent from the start. I didn't see this Squid Game one, but it doesn't surprise me. That does kind of just, that's the state we're in right now in the crypto market. They're going to put these things out there for a few seconds. If they can get any uptake, they're happy, and then they dump them, move on to the next. By the way, speaking of uptake, I'm looking at all the major crypto assets right now. They are all down across the board, all of them, except for Shiba Inu. That's up 8.2% right now. So there you go. I know you got some of that, Mr. Unlimited. So you'll be happy as we got to get on out of here. So let's do a combo of Around the Block and what we're watching here as well. That's what we get for gassing on about Shiba Inu and all the other fun stuff out there. But don't worry, listeners. If you're listening live, you got a lot more coming your way. In a little bit, we're going to dive into all the fun out there. And Twifo got a great guest. Help me do that in about exactly half an hour. Probably going to get into some crypto out there as well. So if you want more crypto, stay tuned for that. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Let's start with the Rock Lobster, sir. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week? A and B, if folks want to hit you up about all this crazy stuff, where should they go? What should they do?
What I'm looking at will vol just basically go back to where it came from. The vol futures are hovering right at that kind of break level here. So I'm interested if it breaks today or maybe tomorrow. So that could be higher SPY prices if it does. So again, futures at an interesting level, a pivot point, I think. And what am I looking at? To be honest, lithium, all things lithium, to be honest. So like QS, there's a bunch of names on my list. I can't even remember them at this point, but QS is on the top of the list as a potential beneficiary of the green largesse coming our way.
You like that more than your old Denison, sir?
The Denison is uranium, and uranium is also another top one. So
that's right.
I have my finger in both pies.
I keep conflating lithium and uranium, but you are correct, sir. Yes, QuantumScape is lithium. Denison is uranium. I like both EMs as well. What do you guys think? Hit them up, optionpit.com to learn more. Mr. Uncle Mike, what do you think of the various EMs? What are you keeping an eye on, and where should folks go to learn more?
No opinion on the various EMs. In terms of what I'm watching right now, seeing if we're going to bottom out with this 10-year note sell-off that we're having. We're getting closer to some levels that I think we possibly could. And then seeing if the stock market has a little bit of a slingshot effect. It's pulled back, and we'll see if it takes off like it has. It seems like every pullback for a long, long time. So watching those things and seeing where we're going with it. And if you'd like some more information on working with a financial advisor that does work in the option product as well as long-term investments, and I kind of combine the two of them, the way with which I do things. It's very unique. Feel free to reach out to me at my website, stcharleswealth.com, or feel free to follow me on Twitter at MikeTosaw.
There you go, at Mike Tosaw on the old Twitter, stcharleswealth.com. We got to get on out of here, but don't worry, if you're listening live, hang out, have a beverage. We'll put some fun stuff in the live chat. We're not even going to turn it off. How nice are we? We'll be back in 26 minutes now with a great guest to break down all the hot action in the world of futures, options, Then back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for volatility views. And then for all you Secret Club folks, back again 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern to break down the mad, weird, and wild world of unusual options activity. You can probably tell there's a lot of it to break down this week. So stay tuned for all of that. Otherwise, we'll see you back here on Monday for the Option Block.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.